Alright, fellow humans, welcome back to the Scrub Lord's channel for my next big thing. Now, first, get all the thanks. Thank you for being here, thanks for watching, thanks for clicking on it, thanks for all that. Maybe check out my Worm video if you kind of want to understand this format a little more, but other than that, we're going to get straight into it. Now, if anyone's clicked on this and they don't know what Warhammer 40k is, it is a tabletop miniature game made by Games Workshop where, you know, you got a lot of space dudes fighting a lot of other space dudes. I'm going to be honest, this is not the video you should come to if you want to find out what Warhammer 40k is, because I barely know what Warhammer 40k is, right? So that being said, I have this thing where I want to know everything about franchises I like. For instance, the podcast episode I did with my friends is a great episode, also on this channel. I didn't just want to read Spider-Man comics that were good. No, I read every Spider-Man comic ever so I could know it all, right? That's the kind of things I do when it comes to like Star Wars books. It's like, no, I'm gonna read all the canon ones. So that's how I treat book series, right? And I want to get into Warhammer. Specifically, recently I have been getting more and more into the miniatures for the tabletops, or for the tabletop, and stuff like that, right? You know, I've been looking into lore videos, and then I realized looking into lore videos, I was like, man, why don't I just read them all? Wouldn't it be funny if I just read every Warhammer book ever? But then I realized there's like 500 plus Warhammer books, and that'd be physically impossible for not only my wallet, but also my mental state. Because I would be a nugget afterwards. Like, I don't even know what I would look like after doing that. So then, I wanted to narrow it down. You know, I'm like, well, how do I narrow this down? So then I found out about the Horus Heresy, which is the thing every Warhammer fan knows about. Again, if you're not a Warhammer fan, I guess thanks for being here. But like, oh, this is gonna get rough, maybe. But I was like, well, shit, there's got to be Horus Heresy books. Lo and behold, there are Horus Heresy books. 60 plus Horus Heresy books, which is still, holy fuck. That's and novellas and, you know, unreleased books. But I realized, I was like, okay, this is my chance, right? This is how I do it. This is how I read every Warhammer book. I'm just going to read all the Horus Heresy books while you're watching the video. So, you know, part of it happened. Now, this is part one, and I want to make this known. I've only read 5 books. When this video comes out, it will only contain reviews of 5 books. And I will probably keep doing that. Maybe I'll add more. Like, maybe part 2 will be 10 books or something. But I don't really want to read them all. And then also specifically, I don't want to read them all back to back to back. Because for the Percy Jackson video I made, where I read every Percy Jackson book, and the Worm video, where I read all of Worm, it gets very tiring when you hit about, let's say, book 10 of a series, and there's more, you know? It kind of starts to drain on you, especially when they're all very similar, and they're not, like, changing much. And I'm not saying Warhammer is going to be that, but in the off chance it is, I really don't want to read every Warhammer 40k book ever in the span of 2 months and not read anything else. I want to spice it up. I want to have different reviews on this channel alone. So this will be a long, epic series, much like the Horus Heresy books themselves, where I can't promise the next part 2 will come out anytime soon. I don't want to promise that. But I will promise that it will definitely come out. I will read these books eventually. With all that being said, why don't we get right on in to the Horus Heresy? Okay, I lied. We're not getting right into the Horus Heresy because I bought 5 Warhammer books, and 4 of them were the first 4 Horus Heresy books, and then I bought a Primarch book, which, like I said, if you don't know what Warhammer is, please go watch a video slightly explaining the lore and then come back, because I will get into spoilers on the books, and because I don't know much, right? So, like, as I'm reading, I will react to the things that happen, but that being said, I'm not going to sit here and, like, go in depth on what a Primarch is, because I myself barely know. I'm not the guy you should be looking at to explain Warhammer lore, but regardless, I bought a Primarch book, because here's the thing with Warhammer books, you can't fucking find them, they don't exist. Games Workshop or Black Library, which is technically the printing company, does not fucking print these books, ever, to my knowledge. So a lot of them I've had to buy on the Kindle, which I'm not a fan of, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. But one of the books I got physically is the Mortarion book by David Annandale, because Mortarion is my favorite Primarch, which I know is heresy. I know he eventually becomes an Urgol demon prince, but I like Mortarion, and the book was only $16. It's hardcover, and it was in print and new, which is fucking insane for a Warhammer book, especially hardcover. These shits do not come in hardcover cheap, so the fact that I bought it, the fact that my favorite Primarch was like the only one in print, I had to buy it. So I had to read it. And I figured, technically this book takes place pre-heresy, right? So, what a good place to start, I think, yeah, the book was okay, I'll be honest. It was fine. It wasn't great. I don't know. I don't want to, shit on David Annandale's writing. It was okay. It was very short. There was only, 220 pages max, which is fine. I don't need a long book. Hell, actually, I would like that for the Warhammer books, because I gotta read 60 plus. But, I don't really know. It was fine. I think my biggest problem was it switched perspectives a lot. So, I bought this book wanting to read from Mortarion's perspective, because I know, apparently, at least I've heard, a lot of the Horus Heresy books and just Warhammer books in general, you don't really, oftentimes when you would want, you don't see from the Primarch's perspective, and the Primarch's the main characters. So I was like, I want to learn more about Mortarion, and I would have been fine with just reading about Death Guard also, because they're my favorite Space Marine Legion. I fucking love the Death Guard. I love the way they look. And you do get some Mortarion. I don't want to paint it like it's not about Mortarion. It's about Mortarion, but there are just some chapters where it's here you're reading pages upon pages from the villain's perspective, and they're just annoying, and they're not fun to read, and they don't really give you much. The most you get out of them is that they're bitches and they're scared of Mortarion, which is fine. I'd be scared of I'd be shitting my pants if Mortarion was on the planet I was on. But I don't know, I didn't like the changing POVs, and it was written fine. It's not it just wasn't the best written book I had ever read, so it was fine. But essentially, this book is about Mortarion's conquest of the planet Galaspar and him destroying something known as the Order for the Emperor's Great Crusade. And it was fun. I think there was some fun action. There were some really great, detailed scenes when Mortarion was just murdering people, and, getting to see his kind of mindset on why he hates mutants and he hates psychers, because, the planet he grew up on was controlled by them, and shit sucked. It was good. There was also a guy named Typhon, who I've heard is really important later, and he was a Death Guard Space Marine. So, maybe we'll come back to Typhon, but all in all, a decent introduction to Mortarion, but not really a good introduction to the world of Warhammer, which, as I've said, because I have read some videos, doesn't bother me, or watched some videos, it doesn't bother me as much. But don't buy this book. If you've never read a Warhammer book, do not buy this book. This should not be your first, because it does not explain anything. So, I don't have much more to say about it. Let's get to the next book. Alright, I want to give some context for this book. Also, if it seems like I'm talking really fast, I'm not trying to. I just woke up. So all the energy I have to use for the rest of the day is being used right now. Now, this next book, or technically the first book in the Horus Heresy series, is Horus Rising by Dan Abnett. Now, I've got a confession to make. I've read this book before. You see, about 2 years ago, back during the COVID times of 2020, when everyone was stuck in their house, I decided to do the exact thing I'm doing now, which is I want to get into Warhammer, because I already, I'm a comic book fan, so clearly I need more expensive hobbies to spend my money on. So back then I literally did not watch any lore videos, because a couple of my friends were into Warhammer, and they talked about it all the time, and I was like, well, this is how you get into a franchise, right? You read a book, which technically it should be, but, so I remember back in 2020, I just looked up where to start Warhammer book, and it was like, start with the 30k Horus Heresy line, and the first book is Horus Rising. Now, I didn't know what any of these fucking words meant, right? So I bought Horus Rising, which I did later, slight spoilers to the end of the story, I did later sell Horus Rising, so I had to re-buy it. Now, luckily, this is one of the few books they always keep in print, and it only cost me $10, which is nice. But I bought Horus Rising. I was really excited to read it, because Space Marines look cool, and that was about the extent of my knowledge on the franchise. So, I'm reading it, and maybe my opinion will change on it, because I've heard people really like this book. But goddamn did I not like this book, and I couldn't really tell you why, except for the fact that I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I didn't know who anybody was. They don't really do a great job of explaining it. At least I didn't think they did a great job of explaining it. They were just using terms and names, and things were happening. None of it made any sense to me. I did finish the book, though, which goes to show you, back in 2020, I had a problem where I would just finish any book I started. I don't do that anymore. If the book is bad, the book is bad. Or I shouldn't say if the book is... If I don't like the book, I'm not going to finish it. That being said, here we are, 3 years later. We have come full circle, and I am about to start reading... Yeah, I actually haven't started it, but I'm about to start reading the Horus Heresy, Horus Rising. Here's to hoping I like it more. Alrighty, fellow humans. I have finished Horus Rising, the first book of like 60 books in the Horus Heresy series. Now, as I said earlier, I had read this book before. Well, it turns out I only read half of it, and then I stopped reading it. So I don't really know what was up with that, but initial thoughts, just like boom bam, initial thoughts. Past me clearly was a heretic who deserved death, I'm not sure what I was thinking. This book was great. I think Dan Abnett did like a fantastic job on the prose. It's really well written. The characters are really good. The action's well written. Honestly, everything about this book was really good. I'm very excited to see if the others top it, and I'm also a bit worried that maybe they won't. Because I definitely like this one more than the Mortarion book. But, a quick plot rundown, right? I don't know if I'm gonna, fully detailed, lore video kind of thing on these books. I don't think I'm gonna do that. That's not for me. But the basic idea of this is it follows the Luna wolves, whatever, who, and it follows Captain Loken, who is kind of, one of Horus's, from the titular heresy, one of his, top captains who, Horus confides in Loken. So we kind of follow Loken, and there's some other characters in there, but, Loken is clearly the main character. And, we follow Loken through a bunch of adventures. So the first little bit, they're on a planet. They're trying to conquer a planet because, it has humans on it, but they don't believe in the Emperor of Mankind, so they got to fight him and, make them believe. All of that was nice. The action was nice. But the part that really matters about that is we get the first instance or the first like known instance to us at least, because it's the first book of the warp / chaos taking over a space marine, because it takes over one of Loken's like men that he's friends with, and Loken has to kill him. And it's kind of this big moment, because before this, like, Loken mentions, and the narration mentions, that, like, no space marine has ever tried to murder another space marine, and now one of them not only murdered, like, 5, but he also, like, transformed into a demon creature. And when Loken asks Horus about it, Horus is like, yeah, that's the warp. My dad hasn't told me a lot about it, but, you know, it fucks people up. So clearly, like, even Horus doesn't fully know the extent of chaos. And Loken is very, like, kind of ruined by this. So that's kind of like the first big thing that happens. And then they meet this Xeno species. God, I sound like a character in the book. They meet aliens who are human, but they work with, like, these horse people. So it's kind of like half the Space Marines want to kill them, and then Horus is like, no. Emperor has made me War Master. Like, I need to... Like, we shouldn't just murder everybody. Which, by the way, I actually really liked Horus in this book. I figured he'd just be an asshole, but no, he's actually, like, a genuinely nice dude, and he, like, cares about not just his Space Marines, but, like, just people in general, which is very interesting. So I'm excited to see his fall further. But he, like, during these meetings with these alien, I'm gonna call them Xenos, it's kind of fun, with these Xenos, you almost get the sense that, like, something's wrong. And Loken finds out, because he's talking to one of them, that it's because the Xenos think, that the Space Wolves have been corrupted by chaos. But Loken's reaction to it kind of shows this dude that, like, oh, clearly no. Like, because Loken doesn't even know, like, they don't know what the fuck chaos is. To the point that when the Xeno says it, it's spelled with a K, and then when Loken says it, it's spelled like CH. So I don't know if that... I think that happened on purpose, clearly, and I thought that was kind of fun, where it's like, no, they don't even know... Like, Loken has no frame of reference for what the fuck chaos is. And, something happens, and you're not sure what, but, the Xenos, like, turn on the Space Marines, which leads to, like, an all-out battle, you know, and they end up going to war, and Horus, like, conquers them. But that's kind of like the end of the book, but it is also very, I want to say traumatizing. I don't know if that's the word, but it's very, like, traumatizing for Horus, because he doesn't want to make a mistake. Like, he doesn't want to make a mistake and get yelled at by his dad. He wants to make his dad proud, but then, like, he doesn't know if he should make peace with these people, like, because he's like, he doesn't know what his dad would want, so he's just kind of losing it, because his dad gave him an impossible task to go fuck around, because that's what the Emperor's doing. He's sitting in his basement jacking off. So, like, you know, I kind of get the Horus. I get why. Also, we find out the reason the Xenos attack the people is because one of the Word Bearers, another Space Marine Legion, stole a sacred artifact from theirs. And I do know the Word Bearers are one of the traitor legions, so some shenanigans are afoot there. But that's kind of base rundown of the plot. Honestly, I really liked it. I liked Loken a lot. I liked Horus. All the side characters were fun. I didn't know much about the Space Wolves. They get renamed the Sons of Horus at the end, which is such a worse name, in my opinion. But, so I'll probably end up in later bits, I'll call them the Sons of Horus, because that is what they're called. But I just expected them all to be assholes. I didn't expect them to be characters, because, you know, they're the Traitor Legion. It's the Horus Heresy, so it's kind of like, okay. And, well, some of them are assholes, but for the most part, they're all, like, characters and people. And I don't know, I really liked it. It was a really good book. I look forward to reading the next one. And two things I will say. One, I'm afraid for my boy Loken, because Loken, throughout the entire book, like, even Horus and, like, his therapist, like, everyone is telling Loken, like, he's very human for a Space Marine, and he has, like, he's still not fully human, like, you know, but, like, he acts more human than a lot of Space Marines. So I'm a little afraid that, like, he's not gonna turn to chaos, and he's probably gonna get, like, brutally killed. Now, I don't know, because like I said in the intro, I know a little bit about Warhammer. Like, I know enough to hold a conversation, but I couldn't, like, name all the characters and stuff. So I'm very intrigued and just interested in seeing, like, Loken's path. Will he die? Will he die defending the Emperor, or will he turn traitor? I really look forward to that. Maybe it's in the next book. I don't know. I don't know what book exactly it is when traitor shit happens, but I'll find out. And then the second thing I'm worried about is the changing authors, because obviously there's 60 plus books, so every book is pretty much written by a different author. And the next book is about Loken, or it might not be about Loken, but it is about the Sons of Horus still. So I'm a little, like, worried. Will it be as good? Will it feel too different? Will the characters feel the same? I'm not really sure. Because you don't really see that a lot in franchises. I mean, I read Star Wars books, but, like, Star Wars books don't, they don't really trade characters like that. I guess the High Republic books do, but I don't know. Doing that is a very weird situation, and it's a very tough thing to balance. So I'm very worried for the next book. But overall, I don't know if I gave the Mortarion book a ranking. I would give Horus Rising like a solid 8 out of 10. I mean, it was really good. It's not like the most profound and the greatest book I've ever read or anything, but, like, it is a solid, good book. Still, I will say, to agree slightly with my past self, not an entry to the franchise. If you don't know anything about Warhammer, do not read this book. You watch some lore videos. I think if you just watch a couple lore videos, you could probably hop in. But, like, they're using terms. There's people you're not going to know about. Like, there's so much going on. You're not really going to know what's happening. And it doesn't really try to explain much of it. For the most part, it explains a decent amount. But, like, there's a lot it leaves out that is useful to know. So that's just a warning. Like, do not read this book if you don't know anything about Warhammer. But overall, Horus Rising, an 8 out of 10, solid read. And I don't really know how to end this, so let's just get into the next book. Okay, fellow humans, I am back. Now, for me, it's been about a week and a half since the last little segment of this video. For you viewers, it's been 12 seconds. Well, I have just finished False Gods by Graham McNeill, the second book of the Horus Heresy saga, as we would call it, I suppose. Damn. Yeah, I loved this book. I thought it was great. I was a little worried that, a different writer was going to be tackling the same characters. I don't necessarily mind a different writer being like, well, this person writes about the Sons of Horus and this person writes about the Word Bearers, right? Like that, I'm with that. But the fact that the same characters were being tackled by a different writer, I was a little worried. Don't worry about that. It was just as good. I don't know which one I like more. I'm not sure which one I like more. What I will say is I don't really have a lot of cons for False Gods. I think it was a lot quicker of a read. I said it's been a week and a half. It didn't take me a week and a half to read the book. I was on, like, vacation, and I didn't want to, it doesn't matter. So my only, like, con, like, is about halfway through the book, I think it kind of loses steam, because it does, like, a bit of a time jump, and you gotta, like, reorient yourself. It just feels a bit weird. I don't know if that was wholly necessary, personally, but sort of getting into, like, what happens in this book, it still follows, the Luna Wolves are now known as the Sons of Horus. Loken is still a main character. But this book it's when it goes down. If I had to say anything about Horus Rising is essentially here's the game, right? Here's the board. Okay, here's the characters, here's some of the players. This is the book where it shifts, because we get the introduction of, truly the introduction of chaos. Like, Nurgle isn't in the book, but they're, at one point in the book, they do go to a plague world and fight plague Nurgle, Nurgle guys who are all disgusting and farting and fucking puking out of every orifice they have imaginable. And that's where we get Horus gets stabbed by a sword that Erebus stole. Fuck Erebus, by the way. All my homies hate the word bearers. Fuck the word bearers. Okay, I can't stand them. But Horus gets stabbed by the sword. He's gonna die. So Erebus, again, fuck the word bearers, decides to, he's like, hey guys, why don't we put Horus through like an evil magic ritual? And the half of the Mournival, really the only half that are there, so Abaddon and little Horus are like, okay, we're going to go do, it's going to help Horus, so we'll do it. Torgodden and Loken, my boys, my main man, both of them, I love them, were not there. So they were quite pissed at this. Horus is like dying, he's in a ritual. The Mournival are kind of fighting each other. They're not really fighting, but like Loken and Torgodden are kind of like, we should figure out what the fuck is going on here. And then meanwhile, Horus is on a fucking mushroom vision quest where he's talking with Erebus, and Erebus is teaching him about chaos and turning him against the Emperor. And at this point, Magnus shows up, and Magnus is like, dude, don't listen to him, Horus. The word bearers are traitors. Lorgar's already betrayed the fucking Emperor. Also, my AC unit just came on, so if that's... I don't want to re-record this, so if that's heard in the background, I apologize. But yeah, like, they're all... crazy shit's happening, and then Horus goes, Magnus, fuck you, man. Fuck you, Magnus. And Horus decides to Heresy. It happened. I mean, it didn't start. Well, it did start. Because right after Horus, like, wakes up from his mushroom vision quest, that's when, like, the book kind of time jumps. And in the time jump, essentially a couple things happen. Horus and Lorgar, like, situate their plan. So they, or I guess it's technically Horus and Erebus, but, like, Lorgar is a traitor, so, like, clearly, you know what I mean? Doesn't matter. So that happens. They recruit Fulgrim, and then I don't think they recruit Angron. No, not fully, but they definitely talk about it. Angron, I think, is the most willing to betray the Emperor, at least from what I know about him. So I don't really think that's going to take much, but Horus is, Horus also recruits, like, Abaddon and little Horus. He gets members of the Mechanicus as well. Horus is building his army up. Meanwhile, the kind of, like, B plot of the book is all the humans that were in the last book. So, like, Carcassi and I can't remember any of their names, but all the, like, poets and the remembrancers and all that stuff, they start worshiping the Emperor. So basically, if you're reading a chapter that isn't about a Primarch, it is about someone learning to think of the Emperor as a god, which is, not something he wants you to do. Also, all the characters kind of get attacked by a demon of chaos that they accidentally summon by reading the book written by Lorgar, which is kind of fucked up, by the way. But regardless, now the humans are starting to worship the Emperor. The Sons of Horus have... Technically, they've betrayed the Emperor, but, like, Loken and Torgodden don't really know about that right now. And the book kind of ends with them being like, there's something wrong with our legion, and we need to cut the heresy out. So they're gonna, like, try and fix the Sons of Horus. And then, like, the last page of the book is Horus being like, okay, I have set all, like, Sanguinius is gonna fall into a trap, Gilliman's going to a trap, and they're like, well, what about the other legions? And Horus goes, well, I'm sending them to this planet called Istvan 3, and we're gonna fuck them up. So, I'm very excited. This is like, I'm in it now, it's happened, the heresy has happened, bad things are gonna go down. Oh, I feel bad for Magnus, by the way, because he was using sorcery, even though the Emperor told him not to. He was using sorcery to try and, like, save Horus from falling to chaos. And then the Emperor, like, finds this out. So he tells, I think he tells Leman Russ to go grab Magnus and bring him back to Terra. And then Horus, now Leman Russ is not a traitor, but Horus calls up Leman and he goes, hey man, so Magnus is using sorcery, I think you should, like, deal with that. And Leman goes, yeah, I don't think the Emperor needs to see him. I think you're right, Horus. I think I should just go kill Magnus. So poor Magnus is just fucked all around. I feel bad for him. He really, he used sorcery to try to save Horus, and Horus really betrayed him. Like, that really shanked him in the back. So, that's all the shenanigans that went down in this book. I don't know what happens in the next couple. I mean, I have no idea. But I look forward to getting to them. So, I'm going to cut this short. I'm going to get to the third book. I will see you fellow humans then. Alright, fellow humans. I'm about halfway through the book. It is, I'm here to report, just as fantastic as the first one. But I'm really making this segment, one, to say, holy shit, how dead in the water wrong I was about, like, Quoth skipping over a lot. Now that I'm halfway through the book, I'm starting to feel like the rest of the King Killer fans who don't have, the third book. And it's gonna bother me that the third book isn't out. And I know I still have about 500 pages to go. And a lot can happen in that. But goddamn, now I'm starting it. I'm starting to get it. But then I'm also making this little segment to say currently where I'm at in the book, Quoth is with the mayor. I think that's how you say it. Averlin. He's with, like, he isn't the king of Vintish, which is one of the countries or whatever, but he's kind of, like, very high up there. Doesn't really matter. He kind of chilling with him, trying to make sure Averlin can get a girlfriend, which I think is kind of hilarious because Quoth has yet to do that. Quoth is extremely bad with women, but apparently he knows what he's doing, Coach don't play the game, if you will, with Quoth. So that's a little update on where I'm at. I'm liking it. I like the university stuff more because I like Simon and Willem. And with the university stuff, Quoth was, like, learning magic and fighting Ambrose, which is fun. But with this, it is still just as interesting, but it's, I don't know, And then, so there's this little update on where I'm at in the book. But here's the thing. I've thought this since the first book, and I'm just got to get into it. I don't trust Denna. Okay, now if for some reason people are reading this and you have not, or watching this, and you have not read the books, Denna is the girl Quoth is madly in love with, beyond mad love. Like, he loves this woman so much that he doesn't want to ruin the friendship with her, so he doesn't even want to ask her out, which might just be the most real thing I've ever seen in a fantasy novel. Goddamn, that is a real thought right there. That being said, they really should just ask each other out. They clearly both love each other. Regardless, I want to bring up Denna because I don't fucking trust her. And I don't know if, like, that's just my... No, I don't know. I was going to say it's just a hunch. I don't think you're supposed to trust this woman. And it's been bothering me because... oh, excuse me. She constantly disappears. She's constantly changing her name with different men. Or to be with different men. And by be with, I mean kind of like steal some of their money and then leave. And she has a mysterious patron who I think frequently beats her. Because she constantly has bruises. And she's like, no, he's not beating me. But, like, Quoth and I know. I mean, come on, it's like, this guy's weird. The whole situation around her is weird. She always appears when you would least expect her, where you would least expect her. Like, she sends Quoth a letter and is like, hey, I'm going to Yalish. Bye. I'll see you later. And then when Quoth goes to Vintish, I think, or I don't know. The language might be Vintish, but I don't know what the country's called. It doesn't matter. When Quoth goes to Vin, she's there. And she's like, well, my patron sent me here. Haha, isn't that a great coincidence? And I'm sitting here and I'm like, is it? I don't trust her. All right, that's all I'm saying. And maybe my fears are unfounded, But something about her bothers me, and I think it might just be her mysteriously disappearing. That being said, I have a tiny complaint, and it's the fact that they haven't asked each other out. Now, she clearly in the first book does not remember when she got, like, drugged and then, like, kind of admitted to loving Quoth. But, like, she said it, or at the very least she hinted it when she was drugged. And obviously Quoth, being the gentleman he is, did nothing about it when she was drugged because, like, yeah. But now that she is undrugged, he equally has done nothing about it. And I have spent 2 books at this point of them just kind of flirting but not getting together, and then being like, well, we don't like each other. And it's the only part of this series so far that is driving me insane. And their interactions are always well written. Like, every time they meet up, it's still well written. It's not like it's not well written. But every single time I'm just like Denna will say something where she's like, I know you don't really like me, Quoth. And then Quoth will be like he will express his love in the most poetic way humanly possible. Like, he'll come up with, he says he's not a poet, but it's almost like he comes up with poems. And then she'll just be like, haha, you're funny. And it's like, it drives me insane because it happens almost every time they talk. And that's really all I have to say so far. And then, so I'll throw a theory out. Or a couple theories. One, are we going to figure out what's up with these doors? Well, there's the door in the archives, like the 4-plated door. And then there's the Lackless, who's a family in Vin. The Lackless have a lockless door. And I just want to know if, like, I mean, obviously, by the time this video comes out, I'll have already finished the book. But, like, right now, I'm kind of like, are we going to learn about that? Or is that third book stuff? Or what's going on with that, basically? And then also, if the second book keeps up this pace, I'm hoping that Quoth gets expelled from the university. That's like my little bar of, like, what I want to happen is I want to see the end of the university stuff, because I'll be honest, if book 3 comes out in like 10 years and he's still at the university, I will absolutely be reading it, but holy shit, that is insane, and there's no way this is a 3-book franchise. So if he can get expelled from the university, then I'll consider these 2 books a dub, and if not, I'm going to feel like a crazy man. So with that being said, I'm going to go read some more, and I will see you fellow humans when I am back. Alright, fellow humans, I'm about halfway through Galaxy in Flames by Ben Counter, which is the 3rd book of the Horus Heresy series. And I gotta say, holy shit. I'll start off with, like, my cons. So far, like I said, I'm halfway, so I will make a little addendum to this when I do finish it, but I don't really think the book is, like, fantastically well written. Like, this isn't the best book I've read, whatever. I don't want to be too mean. It's still well written, but I think it's a lot better than the Mortarion book, which so far is still the worst book I've read for this series. But I don't know. Ben Counter's doing, like, a fine job. He could be doing a lot worse, so that's really my only con. I don't really have many cons, because I don't know, I'm a very easy person to please, I suppose, but I am making this because, oh fuck, it's finally happened. Horus has heresied. Ooh, yeah, I'm sorry, I apologize for that line, that was terrible. But I'm gonna say it again. Heresy has been committed. And this book really feels like the end of a trilogy. Now, I know, obviously, there's fucking 60 other books I gotta read, but this takes all the characters we've met so far, like the human characters from Cinderman to, Keeler and Euphrates and, all the... I forget a lot of the humans' names, I'm gonna be honest, because I didn't think they were gonna be important, and now they're very important. But it has all the human characters, and their plot line is kind of converging. One of them they're all worshipping the Emperor now. Basically, every person on the Vengeful Spirit, which is Horus's flagship, is worshipping the Emperor, which is kind of hilarious, actually. But then it also combines, like, a bunch of other characters, like the Emperor's children are back. So we have, like, Saul Tarvitz, and, Loken is still around. Like, basically everything all the plot lines are combining. Also, the Death Guard are here. Let's get a whoop for my boys. The Death Guard, the best fucking Legion. That's what I'm talking about. Nathaniel Garrow showed up as well, which I'm pretty sure he was in the Mortarion book, and now he's in this one. And I think the next one's about him. I love my boy. But basically, what's going on in this book, being like the culmination of everything that's going down, Horus is gone, right? Let's cut to it. Man is gone. He is a heretic. He is talking to chaos beings. He's talking to demons and shit. And he's gone to a planet called Istvan 3. Or he's like, we gotta wage war on these fuckers. He does the Horus thing. So all the Space Marines are like, okay, but here's the catch. He invited, obviously, his sons of Horus, the Emperor's children, the Death Guard, and the World Eaters, right? Which is very odd. 1 Legion is enough to do most of the work. 2 is pushing it, right? Now you've got 4? Shenanigans are afoot, right? So as far as I know, the World Eaters have already turned traitor because Angron... I don't know a lot about Angron, but the stuff I know about him, yeah, okay. I don't believe Death Guard has turned traitor because what Horus has done is he has... the Emperor's children are traitor, I should add, but he has shot most of the sons of Horus, the Emperor's children, and I think all of the Death Guard onto Istvan 3, where he will then bombard it with the Life Eater virus, which I don't really know what that is. But basically he's killing the people who won't work for him. It's as simple as that, right? Which includes our boys Loken and Torgodden. It would have included Saul Tarvitz, but I'm just going to call him Tarvitz now. Tarvitz is based, and he kind of figured out shenanigans were afoot. And this is really what I wanted to make. I just wanted to shout out my boy. So he figured out shenanigans were afoot, stayed back on the ship, investigated, found out about the Life Eater virus, and then immediately hijacked a ship down to Istvan 3 to warn his fellow brothers. I love that man. I love Tarvitz so much. I love Loken too, because I don't think I mentioned this, but a while ago, the reason I didn't get into 40k is because a lot of the characters that I had heard about were all the same. It's for the Emperor, purge the heretics, purge the Xenos, right? And that's all they were. And I was worried getting into this series that, that's all it would be. And I'm so glad that there are actual characters who are going against them, like Loken and Tarvitz and Torgodden. Now, they haven't started working together yet. I imagine they will start working together. They know shenanigans are afoot with chaos, and they want to stop it. They're like, no, fuck this. And I love that. It just makes me happy that to be proven wrong, really, I'm trying to think of very fast other things that happened before I end the segment and go and finish this book, because I am almost done with it. But, I am worried that all my characters are going to die. Because I know a lot of the other later Heresy books are about, Gilliman and the Space Wolves and basically every other faction, so I fear this might be my last book with my boys Loken and Torgodden and Tarvitz, which is a bit of a shame. But, it is the grimdark far future of 40k, well, 30k, but I will add, I guess, also, the books haven't been very grimdark so far. I mean, there's, fucked up shit and they're murdering a lot of people, but, it isn't what I've come to expect out of grimdark, so I imagine that'll either happen at the end of this book with the death of basically every person I've ever cared about, or maybe it'll happen in the later ones. Either way, fellow humans, I'm going to go finish the book, and I will update you all when I am back. Well, when I'm... Fuck! Well, fellow humans, I feel quite dumb. I just finished Galaxy in Flames. You could almost disregard pretty much everything I said in the not everything I said in the previous segment, but I basically flipped the page and the shit went down. Tarvitz made it to the planet. He warned him about the bombing. Horus committed the bombing, and he said, "Let the galaxy burn," which I think is his line. He says in all the stuff he, like, trailers and fucking nonsense he speaks in. And yeah, they basically just went to war, and it was one awesome, like, the battle, basically. Like, the last 100 pages of the book, 150 pages, give or take, was just complete battle. That was really all the grimdark shit, Space Marine against Space Marine for, like, the first time ever. It was fucked up. I was hoping to see some dubs on the good, the loyalist, I guess is technically what they are, on their side. I don't want to say they didn't win any. They held off the traitors for like 4 or 5 days, which is kind of crazy considering like the size difference and stuff. All thanks to my boy Tarvitz, by the way, who does unfortunately die in the end. I mean, they all die in the end. Tarvitz dies, Trugaden dies, Vipus dies, Loken dies, unfortunately. So I got the Grimdark. I went, I don't think it's got a lot of Grimdark in these first 3 books. I was wrong. I still don't think Ben Counter is perfect, but I must say this back half of the book really picked up for what I think kind of lacked in the first half of the book, because it was all action. It was all very well written action as well, and I was very pleased with a lot of the final moments of our characters. I will say I was a little mad when Loken went to fight Abaddon. I knew it was over because I know Abaddon survives post Heresy, so I was a little sad that my knowledge of spoilers kind of spoiled a big moment for a character I really liked. But no, the whole back was just filled with great moments. There's a moment where Tarvitz saves a couple of the World Eaters, and the leader of the World Eaters, or the captain of this certain squad, Erlin, I think. He's like, you gotta run. And then Tarvitz is like, well, Space Marines don't run. And he goes, you run from this. And then motherfucking Angron, Primarch himself, just drops onto the planet here to murder the rest of the Loyalists, which is very fucked up. I mean, really, the whole back half of this book was fucked up. The only, like, shining bright spot was the Eisenstein makes it away. So Nathaniel Garro of the Death Guard makes it away with Cinderman and Keeler, and like the 3 human characters who really matter, as well as Acton Cruz, the old Luna Wolf, or old son of Horus. They go back to be called the Luna Wolves. The Loyalists do. They like take the name back, which I like. It's a much better name. But yeah, Heresy has begun, and Horus hints that on Istvan 5, he will basically, that's where the war with the rest of his brothers are going to happen. So I look forward to seeing that. I know the next book is called Flight of the Eisenstein, so I'm sure it has nothing to do with that, and the next book will be the last book of this video, so I probably won't get to the war on Istvan 5 for a while, but I do look forward to it. And have I done numbers? It's so long in between recording sessions for this video, I don't know if I'm giving these books numbers. I think maybe I gave the Mortarion book a 6. I think that's what I would give it. And I'd give Horus Rising, False Gods, and A Galaxy in Flame, I'd give them all a 8. They're not like the best books I've ever written or read, but they are very solid, and I've enjoyed them. I don't know if I have a favorite between the 3 so far. And like I said earlier, this really does feel like the end of a trilogy, So I'm interested to see what Flight of the Eisenstein feels like. Like, is that the start of something new, or is it like a one-off? Because I definitely need a break. I really like these books, but I'm not trying to read 58 of them or whatever in a row. That is not entertaining to me. So I'm gonna read Flight of the Eisenstein, take a little bit of a break, and then come back, ready to read more. So I'm hoping Flight of the Eisenstein's a one-off, because if it's not a one-off, I might have to squeeze another book in there, and I don't know if I want to do that. That being said, though, Galaxy of Flames, definitely worth reading. It took 3 books, but we finally got to the Heresy. The Heresy has finally begun. So now we're going to get to the real shit, I think. And with that being said, let's go right on into Flight of the Eisenstein. Alright, fellow humans, I have just finished Flight of the Eisenstein by not Ben Swallow. I lied. That's a fake name. By James Swallow. I'm not sure where I got that Ben part, but nonetheless. So, yeah, this book is great. I said the last 3 books kind of acted like a trilogy. This definitely feels like the epilogue to the trilogy, or I don't think I wouldn't call it like a quadrilogy, because I don't know, this one, the only characters that are like shared across the 3 books and then this one are, well, Nathaniel Garrow, who was briefly in Galaxy in Flames, but then Iacton Cruz is in this, and Euphrates Keeler is in this. Cinderman and Olatin are also there, but they don't do a lot in this book, and there's no chapters from their perspective. This is all from the Death Guard's perspective, and occasionally from Cruz's perspective. Yeah, but I like this book because Heresy finally happened, and like I said, we follow pretty much just Garrow and a couple of his squad members. Like, we follow their POV the entire time. Which, I don't know, is a lot easier to sink my teeth in and get attached to the characters when, like, you know, you're just following the couple dudes instead of, like, jumping between legions. And there's no real big time jumps in this either. So it was nice and easy to follow. The book kind of starts where we meet the Sisters of Silence, which is the first time we're meeting them. I don't know fucking jack shit about the Sisters of Silence in 40k lore, or even if they survived the Heresy. I have no idea. So that was kind of interesting. They seem unique, like they can't talk, and they basically exist to murder psychers. So that was nice. That's kind of how the book starts. You get just like a mission with Garrow and his guys. So you get introduced to all the people. We meet Typhon again, who is in the Mortarion book. He's like Mortarion's #1 guy. You know, there's a bunch of Death Guard in here. Mortarion is in the book, which he's a traitor in this, which sucks because, you know, fuck the traitors. I'm a loyalist all the way, even though Mortarion's my favorite Primarch. But I don't know, Mortarion was kind of nice in this book. Or specifically, he was nice to Garrow. Because you can tell Garrow's supposed to go down to Istvan 3, but Mortarion is kind of like, hey, why don't you not? Why not? Don't do that. Mortarion's trying to, like, Mortarion clearly doesn't want to kill any of his sons, so he's trying to spare some. Even though Garrow is like devout for the Emperor, Mortarion's like, maybe I can get in there and convince him not to be, which I really liked. It's the first Primarch we've seen where they aren't. Not that, like, there's other Primarchs who aren't complete assholes, but this is the first time from the traitor legions I've seen a Primarch not just be a garbage human, or garbage Primarch because they're not humans, but going back to, like, chronological order, you know, you get this battle with the Sisters of Silence, kind of setting up all the characters. Then we see the, I think it's Istvan Prime. It's in Galaxy in Flames. But in Galaxy of Flames, we get it from Saul's perspective. And in this book, we get it from Garrow's perspective. And they kind of run into each other, which is a scene we saw in Galaxy of Flames, but now it's from Garrow's perspective. And I really like that. I like when that happens in books. I like seeing the same scene from 2 different perspectives, which is nice. And then that battle also is the reason Garrow gets assigned to the Eisenstein, because he gets his leg chopped off, and he has a metal leg, but he can't really... he doesn't work well with the metal leg, so they put him on the Eisenstein, which is really where, for me, this book finally kicks into action. It takes a while. This is a good 200 pages in, or 100-ish pages in, but once it gets there, it gets there. Alright, I just had to stop recording because my neighbors were really loud, and then my air conditioning unit came on, and that's really loud, and it's still on, so if you guys can hear that, I'm sorry, but I'm tight on a schedule. I gotta get this recording done, so I'm just gonna power through it. But the Eisenstein, that's where I left off. That's where the book begins for me, because then we get the scene from Galaxy in Flames where Garo shoots down he basically betrays the traitors and stays loyal. And God, I loved that scene because it is fucking crazy. From Saul's perspective, you're just thinking it. You're watching it and you're like, yeah, Garo's based. Garo's a chill ass guy for helping his bro Saul. But you're not really thinking, at least when I was reading it, I wasn't thinking of like the repercussions from Garo's perspective. But then from Garo's perspective, you see how he feels about it, and then you see how his squad mates feel about it. Because, Saul comes over the radio and he goes, yeah, our Primarchs have betrayed us and betrayed the Emperor. Like, I need to go save people. And Garo only believes him because he knows Saul. But everyone else is kind of freaking out because it's like, that's a lie. Like, there's no chance that could happen. That's not real. And I just thought it was very interesting, like, seeing that perspective. And then also seeing, like, Garo, for a little bit, try to rationalize, like, he just betrayed the legions, like, and it takes him a while before he's like, no, I did the right thing. And the big thing that changes that is there's another Space Marine captain on the Eisenstein named, I think it's like Grulagor, I think is how you pronounce it, and he's a traitor. So he's loading the Eisenstein with the virus bomb to shoot at Istvan 3, and then Garo figures this out, kills them, which again is another great moment, because like these are traitors, by the way, like they are absolutely pieces of shit traitors, but Garo kills them and he's still killing his Death Guard brothers, so he really, like, there's a lot of inner monologue and like inner turmoil with Garo, and I just found that to be really interesting. And I don't know why. I liked it with Loken and Saul too, because Loken and Saul have similar like arcs and stuff, but I think it's just because I'm biased to the Death Guard, and I really like the way this book was written. Then we get the flight of the Eisenstein. Then they escape, which was, again, there's a lot of great action scenes in this book. Like, the action scenes in all these books have been really good, but I don't know why, but I was impressed with these ones. And then we just kind of get, like, life sucks for the Eisenstein as they, like, hop into the warp, and the warps get kind of all fucked up right now because the Chaos Gods are all coming around and enjoying themselves. And, like, Nurgle shows up, not, like, necessarily him in person, but, like, he tries to corrupt all the Death Guard, and he sends some, like, Nurgle demons there, which, now that Horus has truly betrayed the Emperor, we're starting to see, at least in this book, like, Chaos is sticking their reaches out, Nurgle's, like, infecting the dead bodies of the Space Marines. At one point, he infects one of Garo's members, like, he gets stabbed with a plague knife, and then it takes a long time, but one of Garo's squad mates eventually goes over to Nurgle, and that turns into a big action scene and stuff like that. So we're seeing, the reaches of chaos begin to pile on to the galaxy and fuck with the galaxy. So I'm very interested in seeing more of that. I also want to see other demons that aren't Nurgle, because I don't like Nurgle because he turns the Death Guard, and I'm biased. That's why I don't like Nurgle, essentially. But I've always liked Khorne from Warhammer Fantasy, which I explained at the beginning of this video I know more about. So I enjoy Khorne in that. So I'm interested to see, like, Khorne and Slaanesh and Tzeentch and stuff, to learn more about them and see how they operate in 40k, or 30k technically. But after all that, fighting the Nurgles and all the nonsense, we kind of get a lot of downtime with Euphrates, who is the Saint of the Emperor. I don't know if she's actually like a character in 40k, but she's got like cool psyker powers and worships the Emperor, which obviously we saw in the other books. But I think this is kind of a turning point, and for one of the reasons this book is important, and you do actually need to read it, because that's the thing. Every book so far I've gone into being like, okay, how does this push the story forward, right? Like, how I'm here to see how the galaxy got to what it is in 40k. That's what I'm most interested in. So that's kind of what I'm looking for in every book. And this is the first book where we see a space marine, which is Garo, start to worship the Emperor. He listens to Euphrates and he's like, yeah, you know what, you're right. The Emperor is a god, and I should worship him, which causes a bit of tension with the rest of his space marines, who are like, especially Iact and Cruz, who's always like, dude, I'm an old guy, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, Garo. Like, you worshiping the Emperor. I love that Cruz does not care, but he's also like, that's weird. I'm not going to call you out on it, I'm just going to tell you it's weird. But, yeah. So now we've got Space Marines who worship the Emperor, which is a pretty big step towards what 40k is, that much I know. But then we get my favorite scene in the book, or my favorite, like, section of scenes in the book. The Eisenstein gets stranded after they hop out of the warp after fighting a bunch of Nurgle demons. And they're kind of stuck there until Rogel Dorn shows up. It's the first time. I don't think it's the first. I'm trying to remember. I think we briefly saw Dorn in one of the other books, or he's mentioned a lot. I don't really remember. You kind of lose track of things when you read 5 books in a row from the same franchise. Things kind of jumble. But holy shit, I liked seeing Dorn, because he's essentially like a stone wall. The book describes him as that. His men are called the Stone Men, because they never show emotion. And, like, you know, he's like, well, why are you guys stranded out in the middle of nowhere? And Garo and Cruz are like, they tell him the thing about the Heresy, and it's another thing I've really wanted to see in these books is this. I want to see the Primarchs react, like the Loyalists' reaction to the brothers betraying the Emperor. And it did not disappoint. Dorn was not a happy camper. He very nearly killed Garo, but he does end up believing him, which puts them on the course to Terra to go tell the Emperor himself. Now, unfortunately, we don't get to see that in this book, because Dorn tells him, and I really want to know the Emperor's initial reaction to the fact that his favorite son and a smattering of his other kids he doesn't care about betrayed him. To me, that's interesting. Hopefully I'll see that in one of the other books. But wrapping this up, the book kind of ends with the Adeptus Custodes. I don't think they're called the Custodes yet, but like the Emperor's main guard showing up to Garo and Cruz and being like, hey, we can't put you back on the front lines because like you don't have a legion, but we've got some other things for you to do. And they kind of they say the word inquisitive things, which makes me believe it's the start of the Inquisition, which I know is a very big thing in 40k. I don't know much about the Inquisition, but I'm pretty sure they hunt heretics and psychers, maybe. Which is something Garo would do, and I also think it was something Cruz would do. So, there's that. I mean, that's his book. I really liked Garo, and I hope I get to see more of him. Like, I hope there's a lot more books from him and Cruz, like hunting down psychers or something, or traitors. I think that'd be fun as hell. But yeah, that's really all I have to say about this book. Great time. I'd give it like an 8. I think all the Heresy books I've read so far an 8. They're not like perfect or anything, but they're solid, fun reads that are, you know, setting up the Heresy. So I'm stuttering a lot at the end here, which is a great fumble. I always fumble at the end, but speaking of the end, that is the end of this video. The first part of me reading every Warhammer 40k / 30k book ever written. I don't know when the next part is going to come out, because I'll throw it up on screen, but these books are kind of expensive, and I'm a very poor college student who does not have money to buy these books. So I don't know when the next part's going to come out. It'll come out before the end of the year. I can promise that. It might be December 31st, but it will come out before the end of the year. So if you like this video, maybe subscribe. Look forward to that. You don't have to. I don't give a shit. But thank you for watching, fellow humans. And I will see you in the next video